It didn't happen all at once. That's the part people never understand. They assume something this unusual must come with a dramatic spark, a thunderclap, a moment you can point to and say, "That's when everything changed." But for us, it was quiet, gradual, like furniture being rearranged when you're not looking, and one day, you trip over the coffee table and realize it's not where it used to be. My name is Paul. I'm 52, and until not too long ago, I was the man of the house. Husband, provider, decision maker, or at least I thought I was. Emma, my wife, was always supportive, kind, thoughtful, sharp as a tack. People loved her, respected her, but they never saw what I saw behind closed doors: her stillness, her patience, the way she watched me as if waiting for something. We'd been married 24 years, 2 grown kids, a modest house on a quiet cul-de-sac. We weren't flashy. We weren't perfect, but we made it work. At least, I thought we did. It started with small things. She began paying the bills. Then she handled the taxes. Then she fixed the garbage disposal while I fumbled with the flashlight. And every time I joke, "Hey, isn't that my job?" she'd just smile and say, "You're busy. I've got it." I didn't mind. Not really. If anything, I was relieved. Life had worn me thin. The weight of manhood, whatever that meant, had grown heavier with age. But I didn't notice how often she took charge until I realized how long it had been since I did. Then came the Saturday that changed everything. It was raining. A steady, gray drizzle that blurred the windows and made everything feel slower. Emma was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, scrubbing the sink with the kind of authority you normally see in generals, not housewives. I was on the couch, flipping through channels I wasn't really watching, feeling useless. She turned to me out of nowhere and said, "You know what your problem is?" I blinked. "What?" "You never let yourself rest into who you are." "What does that mean?" She dried her hands, walked over, and sat beside me. Not gently, not delicately. She took the seat, legs spread slightly, posture firm, confident. The way I used to sit. "I've been running this house for years now, Paul," she said plainly. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on." Stop." She held up her hand. "I'm not blaming you. I'm just stating facts." I looked at her. Really looked. The way she looked at me had changed. There wasn't resentment in her eyes. Not anger. It was something cooler. Something more in control. "Emma," I started, but she shook her head. "You always said you wanted a break. That work was too much. That you were tired of being expected to do everything. So I picked up the slack." She paused. "And somewhere along the line, I stopped thinking of you as the man in the marriage." The words hit like a punch, but she didn't flinch. Neither did I. "I don't mean it as an insult," she added. "I just adapted." We both did. I stared at her. She looked calm, collected, even powerful. And me? I suddenly felt small, like a guest in my own house. "But I don't feel like a woman," I said, half laughing, trying to find my footing. She shrugged. "Then maybe you don't know what that means anymore." That night, I couldn't sleep. The way she said it, the certainty, the rightness of it. It wasn't just the rain. It was the first crack in something I didn't know was fragile. The next day, I tried to reassert myself. Fixed a leaky pipe. Took out the trash. Made a show of mowing the lawn. She watched me. Quietly. Then, after dinner, she asked me a question I'll never forget. "Have you ever wondered what it would be like if I were the husband and you were the wife?" I choked on my water. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." She leaned on the table, eyes locked on mine. "What if we flipped it? Not just chores, roles, everything." My stomach turned. "You mean like what?" "I wear an apron and bake pies." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe something more." I stared at her, half expecting a smirk. But she wasn't teasing. And somehow, I didn't say no. I didn't even laugh. I just asked, "Why now?" "Because," she said slowly, "you're already halfway there. You just haven't admitted it yet." The next morning, I woke up to find a pair of soft slippers by the bed.
Pink.
My size. And a note. Let's see where this goes. Just for the weekend. I'll be in charge. I stood there for 10 minutes, staring at those slippers. I should have thrown them out. I should have marched into the kitchen and told her to stop playing games. But I didn't. I slipped them on. And for the first time in years, I felt strangely at ease. Like I'd been carrying the wrong weight for too long. That weekend, she made all the decisions. What we ate, what we watched, what I wore. And I followed. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Something was shifting. And neither of us knew where it would end. But we both knew one thing. We weren't turning back. The weekend was supposed to end. That's what we'd agreed. But when Sunday night rolled around, Emma didn't say a word about going back to normal. And neither did I.
I think part of me expected her to.
I waited for some casual remark, some laugh. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? But it never came. Instead, she handed me a folded pile of clothes Monday morning. Not my usual work shirt and jeans. A soft knit top, peach-toned. Comfortable. Feminine. And yoga pants that clung tighter than I was used to. I called in for you, she said. Told him you needed some time off. You've been under pressure for years. I can't just Emma. That's my job. She tilted her head. Is it still? There was no venom in her voice. Just the kind of calm challenge that made you stop and wonder. I looked at the outfit. And then, I changed into it. No argument. No struggle. Just a weird, almost peaceful acceptance. That was the beginning of the slide, if you could call it that. Though honestly, it didn't feel like sliding. It felt like stepping into warm water after standing in the cold for too long. I started staying home. I cooked. I cleaned. Emma would come home and ask, "Did you get the laundry folded? Or did you call the plumber like I asked?" And I would nod, a little too eagerly, proud of each checkmark on her mental list. Then she'd give me that small, quiet smile, the one she used to give our kids when they behaved exactly how she'd hoped. At first, it bothered me. Then it started to feel good. Strange, yes. But affirming. Like I was finally useful in a way that someone truly valued. But the more time I spent in that space, apron on, hair gently brushed back, delicate slippers on my feet, the more I noticed something else shifting. Her energy. Emma wasn't just taking the lead. She was becoming something bigger. More commanding. Not aggressive, never that. But composed. In charge. Like a CEO who doesn't raise her voice because she doesn't need to. And I was reacting to her energy without even thinking. One evening, she came home from work, loosened her tie, yes, she had started wearing tailored slacks and sometimes even a blazer, and sat on the couch. I walked over with her tea, her favorite mug, warm hands, the scent of mint rising between us. Without saying a word, she patted her lap. And I knelt down. Right there. My head resting on her thigh. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. The next morning, she called from the kitchen. "Come here, please." I was brushing my teeth. I froze. It wasn't the request that stopped me. It was the way she said it. Clear. Firm. No nonsense. A tone that made my stomach flutter in ways I didn't understand. I wiped my mouth and walked in, still wearing a pale pink robe. She looked me over. Her eyes didn't leer. They assessed. "You didn't do the breakfast dishes." I blinked. I was going to. "No," she said gently but with precision. "That's not what I asked. I said they weren't done. I expect that to be handled before I come down." My cheeks flushed. And then I whispered, "I'm sorry." She stepped closer. Her finger traced the edge of the robe's collar. "Do better," she said softly. I nodded. That night, I found something waiting on the bed. A box. Inside, undergarments. Delicate. Lacy. Clearly chosen with care. She stood in the doorway behind me. "If you're going to be in my home, living under my leadership," she said, "you should dress accordingly." I swallowed hard and said, "Yes, ma'am." The moment I heard myself say it, I panicked. What was I doing? I was a grown man. I paid bills. I had a beard 6 months ago. And now I was blushing over lingerie and obeying a woman like she ran the house. But that was the thing, she did run the house. And the more I let go, the more peaceful I felt. Days turned into weeks. Emma started using new language. Instead of, "Can you grab this?" she'd say, "Go get it for me, sweetheart." Instead of, "Let's go to dinner," she'd say, "I'll decide where we eat." And I followed, without resistance. Then came the mirror. One morning, Emma asked me to stand in front of it after she had styled my hair and adjusted my camisole. I obeyed, quiet, curious, nervous. And then she stepped back and said, "Now look at her." I stared. What I saw wasn't a man in women's clothing. It wasn't drag. It wasn't a joke. It was someone softer,
Smaller.
neater. The way I stood, the way I held my arms, the way my eyes avoided my own gaze, at first all of it belonged to someone who had given up the burden of being a man. Not lost it. Given it up. I turned toward her, unable to speak. She simply said, "Do you like her?" And in a voice I barely recognized as my own, I whispered, "I think I do." That night, she kissed me differently. Not the way a woman kisses her husband. The way a husband kisses his wife. Firm. Guiding. Leading. And I melted into it. For the first time in years, I felt chosen.
Held.
Protected. The next day, she asked me to do something I never expected. "Wear the skirt when we go out today," she said casually, sipping her coffee. I choked. "Out? In public?" She nodded. "Just for a walk. A quiet park. No one's watching." My heart raced. But when I stepped outside, every nerve in my body lit up. I was terrified and more alive than I'd felt in a decade. No one stared. No one shouted. Some people smiled politely as they passed. I clung to her arm. She let me. And when we got back home, I cried.
I didn't even know why.
She just held me. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't explain it away. She let me cry. Because she understood. That was the day I realized something deeper was happening. This wasn't about play anymore. It wasn't just for fun. Emma wasn't pretending to be the man of the house. And I wasn't pretending to be anything. We were becoming something new. Something we didn't have words for yet. But we would. Very soon. It started small, the panic. A flicker of fear in an otherwise calm routine. I had just stepped outside to collect a package from the front porch. I was wearing one of Emma's older cardigans and a pair of leggings that clung a little too closely. No makeup, no wig. But still, unmistakably not masculine. The neighbor across the street, Mrs. Hampton, waved. My stomach twisted. Did she notice? She didn't say anything. Just smiled, took her trash out, and went back inside. I stood frozen on the porch, the cardboard box in my hands suddenly feeling like 100 pounds. When I came back in, Emma was watching from the window. "You okay?" she asked. "I think Mrs. Hampton saw me. She's seen you 1,000 times before. Not like this." Emma stepped forward and gently placed her hand on my shoulder. And if she did, what would she say? I shook my head. I don't know. But I don't want to be talked about. I don't want to be the story. Emma tilted her head. But you're a story. And you've never looked more real. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the world outside didn't play by Emma's rules. Later that night, I sat at the vanity she'd helped me set up. My makeup bag was open in front of me, but my hands hovered above the brushes like I wasn't sure they were mine anymore. Emma came up behind me. "You didn't finish." "I didn't even start," I muttered. She knelt beside me and took my hand. "You told me you liked who you saw in the mirror." "I did. So why stop now?" I bit my lip. Because what if someone sees her and hates her? Emma was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Then they never deserved to see her in the first place." The next day, things escalated. A text from our son, Matt. "Hey Dad, I might swing by this weekend. Just a quick visit. Haven't seen you in forever." I froze. I hadn't spoken to him since before the cardigan, the skirts, the new voice Emma had been helping me shape. He didn't know. Emma was calm when I showed her. "That's okay," she said. "We'll figure it out." "I'm not ready." You don't have to be ready. You just have to be honest. I shook my head. He'll hate me. Then, he doesn't know you as well as he thinks. I didn't sleep the night before Matt arrived. I changed 3 times. Tried to go back to jeans, but they felt wrong. Alien. Emma stood in the doorway as I adjusted my blouse for the 10th time. You look fine. I don't know what I look like. She stepped forward, kissed my forehead, and said, You look like mine. The doorbell rang an hour later. When I opened it, Matt blinked, hesitated, then smiled tight, uncertain. Hey, Mom. Emma hugged him. When he turned to me, his smile faltered.
Dad.
I tried to smile. It's Emily now, I said softly. His eyes widened, and for a long second he said nothing. Not a word. Then, okay. That was it. Okay. Not thrilled. Not angry. Just okay. He stayed for an hour. We talked about work, politics, memories. He didn't ask a single question about what I was wearing, but I could feel his discomfort like static in the air. When he left, I collapsed on the couch. Emma sat beside me and took my hand. You did it, she whispered. I don't know if I did it well. You did it bravely. I wanted to cry,
Scream.
take everything off and disappear. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about outfits anymore.
It was about ownership.
Of identity, of the roles we had rewritten, of the new story we were telling together. Emma's story had changed too. She wasn't just the wife who took over. She had become the cornerstone,
The guide.
the masculine presence I had never known I needed. The way she moved, spoke, directed, it was effortless now. Natural. One evening, as I laid the table for dinner, she walked in wearing a crisp white button-down and navy trousers. She looked powerful. I stood still, holding the silverware, staring. She noticed. What? She asked. I smiled faintly. You really are the man now. She raised an eyebrow. Took you long enough. After dinner, she told me she had something for me. A gift. A small box. Inside, a necklace. Simple. Silver. With a single charm. An E. For Emily. My hands shook. You picked this for me?
No, she said.
You picked this. A long time ago. You just didn't realize it. She fastened it around my neck. I wore it to bed that night. And every night after. The necklace became part of me. I wore it like a wedding ring, a symbol of who I had become and who I belonged to. Emma had started calling me Em around the house. Not teasing. Not playful. Just natural. She spoke with authority now. Clear, measured, unwavering. And I found myself adjusting my posture whenever she entered a room. Sitting straighter. Smiling more. Waiting for her lead. I had never felt so secure. Or so afraid. Because even though our private world had settled into something beautiful, something real, the outside world wasn't far away. It was just waiting for the right crack to seep in. It came one Monday afternoon. I was folding laundry, soft pastels, delicate things that used to feel like costume but now felt like me when my phone buzzed. An email. From the company I hadn't worked at in months. Subject line. HR reinstatement inquiry. My heart stopped. I clicked. They wanted to discuss the possibility of me returning part-time, remote-friendly, flexible. Emma walked in as I was reading it. She didn't say anything.
Just looked at me.
I didn't apply, I blurted. I know, she said. But you're not invisible. People remember you. Someone probably mentioned your name. I stared at the screen. I can't go back like this. Emma stepped forward, gently took the phone from my hands, and set it on the counter. You're not going back. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. But
No.
Her voice wasn't angry, just certain. You've built a new life. You're not slipping back into a man's suit and pretending none of this happened. But if they find out, they won't. And if they do, she stepped closer. They'll see what I see. Tears stung my eyes. I'm scared, Emma. I know, she whispered. That's why I'm here. That night I didn't cook. Emma ordered in. Lit candles.
Poured wine.
And somewhere between the first and second glass, she asked me to do something I never thought I'd hear. I want you to come out with me Friday night. I blinked. Out? Like to a restaurant? She nodded. As Emily. I froze. But people will. They'll see a beautiful woman having dinner with her partner. That's all. I'm not ready. Emma looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, You may never feel ready, but you are. We spent the rest of the week preparing. She helped me pick a dress not flashy, not costume-y, just elegant, fitted. The kind of thing a confident woman wears when she knows who she is. We worked on my walk, my voice, my posture. Every night, I practiced how to speak softly but clearly, how to smile without shrinking, how to hold eye contact without apology. By Friday, I felt like a different person. We stepped out of the house around 6:30. It was just starting to get dark. Streetlights flickering on. A cool breeze brushing past my bare legs. Emma looked like she belonged in a magazine. Navy dress shirt, black slacks, sleeves rolled to the forearms. Masculine. Commanding. Beautiful. I walked beside her, clutching her arm like it was my lifeline. The restaurant wasn't far, a quiet Italian place with soft music and warm lighting. The hostess smiled. Table for two? Emma nodded. We sat by the window. And for the first 10 minutes, I couldn't breathe. I kept glancing around, checking if people were staring. No one was. Not even the waiter, who addressed me as ma'am with effortless ease. You're doing fine, Emma said between sips of wine. I feel like I'm shaking. You are, she smiled. But it's okay. You're allowed to be nervous. It means this matters. I wanted to thank her. Instead, I said, I'm glad you didn't give up on me. She reached across the table and touched my hand. I saw who you were before you did. That's what love is, Em. It's not fixing. It's uncovering. When we walked home, I felt taller than I had in years, not because of my heels, but because I finally wasn't hiding. And that's when it happened. As we reached the porch, a voice called out.
Hey, Paul.
I froze. Turned. It was Martin, our old neighbor. We hadn't seen him in months. He looked puzzled. Confused. He walked closer, then squinted. Is that you? Emma stepped in front of me, casually, like she always did when something needed shielding. I think you've got the wrong person, she said smoothly. But Martin wasn't stupid. He looked past her, eyes narrowing. Paul, what the hell? My voice caught in my throat. Emma's hand slipped into mine. Let's go inside. She led me to the door, even as Martin kept calling after us. Wait, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you wearing a dress? The door closed behind us. Silence. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it echo. Emma locked the door and turned to me. Her expression was unreadable. I knew this might happen, she said quietly. I sat down on the steps, hands trembling. It's over, I whispered. He's going to tell everyone. Emma crouched down beside me. Let him. I shook my head. I can't handle that. You don't have to. I will. I looked at her, and for the first time, I believed her. Not because she said it, but because of how she stood there, calm, unmoved, protective. Like a man. Like my man. And I knew, in that moment, that whatever was coming next, we'd face it together. The next morning came with silence. The kind that sinks into the house like fog. I didn't want to get out of bed. My body felt heavy, like it was mourning something I hadn't buried yet. Emma was already up. I could hear her moving around the kitchen, the sound of mugs and running water. I stayed curled beneath the covers, the E on my necklace pressing lightly against my chest. She knocked on the door before entering. Always gentle. Always in control. Coffee, she asked. I nodded. She placed the cup on the nightstand, sat beside me, and looked out the window. He's probably told someone, I said quietly. She didn't answer. Maybe everyone. Still nothing. I don't know if I can do this. Emma finally turned to me, her eyes calm. You already are. I don't mean just in here, I said, gesturing around the bedroom. I mean out there. If the whole world sees me this way. She reached out, her fingers tracing the inside of my wrist. Then the whole world will finally see the truth. That scared me more than anything. Because even after all these weeks, after everything I'd worn, everything I'd done, every moment I'd spent resting in her arms, a piece of me still clung to the mask I'd worn for over 5 decades. The mask of Paul. The strong one. The provider. The man. But that mask had long since cracked.
And now?
It was nothing more than dead weight. Emma stood up and pulled open the wardrobe. "I want you to wear the green skirt today," she said firmly. "The one that flutters when you walk. I can't go out again. You won't be." She held up the skirt. I invited Martin over. My heart stopped. "You what?" "We need to deal with this. Not hide from it. You said it yourself, he'll talk. He already is talking. And if we leave it to his imagination, the story will get worse. I can't face him like this." Emma didn't flinch. "You'll face him as yourself. With me at your side." I looked at the skirt, then at her, and after a long pause, I nodded. When Martin arrived, Emma opened the door without hesitation. He stood awkwardly, hands in his pockets, shifting from foot to foot. "Hey," he muttered. Thanks for inviting me." Emma stepped aside. "Come in." I was already sitting in the living room, legs crossed, hands folded in my lap. I wore the green skirt. My blouse was ironed, lipstick subtle, hair tied back in a neat clip. I looked like someone who had nothing left to hide. But inside, I was breaking. Martin sat across from me, eyes flickering between the floor and my face. "I'm not here to judge," he said, almost apologetically. I was just surprised. I nodded. "That makes 2 of us," I said. My voice was steady. Practiced. Not a man's. Not quite. But not forced either. Martin cleared his throat. "Is this permanent?" Emma stepped forward before I could answer.
Yes.
"It is." Martin glanced at her, then at me. "I never saw this coming," he said. "I didn't either," I replied. Silence. Then Emma said something that shocked even me. "We're happier now." Martin raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "Yes," she said. "Because we're finally being honest. With each other. And with ourselves." Martin nodded slowly. "Well," he said, standing, "I guess I'll get used to it." "That's all we're asking," I whispered. When he left, I collapsed back into the couch, breath shaking. Emma wrapped her arms around me. "You were perfect," she whispered. "You didn't need to fight. You just stood." "I still feel like I'm going to throw up." She smiled. "That's because you're brave. And brave always feels like fear until it's done." But the fallout was only beginning. Over the next few days, word spread. We didn't know how fast, but things changed. Some neighbors stopped waving. Others stared a little too long. Someone left a church flyer in our mailbox with a note scribbled on it. "God doesn't make mistakes." Emma tossed it in the trash without blinking. But I stood there frozen. Because deep down, some part of me wondered, what if they're right? That night, Emma found me in the bathroom, holding the note in my hands. She took it from me gently and burned it in the sink. "God doesn't make mistakes," she said. "And you're not one." The next morning, I received an invitation. A company reunion. Some old coworkers were gathering for lunch. Casual. Friendly. I stared at the email for hours. I hadn't seen any of them since before. Before skirts. Before softness. Before Emily. When Emma found me reading it, she said nothing. Just waited. Finally, I asked, "Should I go?" She shrugged. "That's up to you. But if they laugh, if they whisper, if they take pictures, then they do," she said. "But if you don't go, you'll never know if someone might see you."
The real you.
Not Paul. Not the mask.
You.
I took 2 days to decide. And then I RSVP'd. Yes. The day of the lunch, I dressed with care. Black slacks. A blouse Emma had helped me pick. A jacket that gave me shape without hiding my body. I wore simple makeup. A touch of gloss. Nothing loud. Just enough to say, "I'm here. And I'm not ashamed." As I walked into the restaurant, the room went quiet. Then one by one people smiled.
Not all of them.
Not warmly.
But they saw me.
They didn't look through me or past me. They saw me. And for the first time since all this began, I didn't need Emma to hold my hand. I stood tall. I ordered my drink. I laughed when someone made a joke about my old tie collection. And when the waiter said, "Ma'am, your order?" I didn't flinch. That night, back home, Emma met me at the door. I stepped into her arms and let out the breath I'd been holding all day. She held me tight, then whispered, "I'm proud of my wife." I cried. Not because I was weak, because I was strong enough to finally be soft. 2 weeks passed, and in those 2 weeks something strange happened. I stopped hearing my old name. Emma never said it. Neither did I. Even in my own thoughts, Paul had faded like an old photograph left out in the sun. But then came the call. From my sister. She hadn't spoken to me since Dad's funeral, nearly 5 years earlier. She sounded chipper. Too chipper. "Hey, I heard you're going through a phase." I froze. Her voice wasn't cruel, but it was coated with sarcasm. I guess you heard from Martin," I said. "He wasn't mean about it," she said quickly. "Just surprised." "We all are." "We all?" So, it wasn't just her. The news had spread beyond the neighborhood, beyond the town. She cleared her throat.
Anyway.
"I thought maybe we should talk. Before things get weirder." I hated how small I felt just hearing that. "I'm still me," I said quietly. "Are you?" I didn't answer. Then she said, "Mom's 80th is coming up. You're invited, of course. But I'd suggest dressing down.
You know.
So people aren't uncomfortable." It took me a moment to find my breath. "Meaning what exactly?" She hesitated. "Meaning don't wear a skirt. Or makeup. Just be normal." Normal. The word stabbed like a knife. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table, silent. Emma found me there an hour later. I didn't need to explain. She could tell by my face. "They wanted to show up," I said. "Not me." Emma stood behind me and rested her hands on my shoulders. "They want a ghost. You're not obligated to haunt your own life." "But it's Mom," I whispered. "She can choose to see you. Or not. But that choice belongs to her, not you." I nodded, unsure. The day of the party, I stood in front of the mirror for over an hour. I'd pulled out an old button-down shirt, slacks, dress shoes. They didn't fit anymore. Not just physically, emotionally, like armor meant for someone else's war. Emma stepped into the room, saw the clothes on the bed, and said nothing. Instead, she laid out a soft navy blue wrap dress. "Wear this," she said. "It's who you are." I looked at her. "But if I do, they'll stare." I nodded. "They'll whisper." I nodded again. She came closer, lifted my chin with one finger. "But they won't change you. And they don't get to define your womanhood." I took a breath and chose the dress. When we arrived at the party, the room shifted. Conversations paused. Forks hovered above plates. Eyes locked on me. On Emily. Not Paul. Some people smiled with surprise. Others didn't hide their discomfort. But I didn't shrink. Emma held my hand tight, proud, unshakable. My sister approached, visibly tense. "You came," she said. "Like that." I smiled softly.
No.
"I came like this." She opened her mouth, searching for some clever jab, but it never came. And just then, Mom entered the room. Eyes slightly faded, but still sharp. Still her. She looked me up and down, then stepped forward and hugged me
Tightly.
"I knew," she whispered. "Long before you did." I nearly collapsed. Not from shame, but from release. The dam cracked. The tension of years, decades gave way in a moment of silent acceptance. I had spent so long fearing the loss of family, only to realize some parts of it had never truly left me. After the party, Emma drove us home. We didn't talk for the first half hour. Then she glanced over and said, "You walked through fire tonight." "And didn't burn," I smiled.
No, she said.
"You forged something." I turned toward her. "What?" "A new name. A new identity. A new place in this world. I nodded.
But there's more, she said.
I frowned. What do you mean? She pulled the car over, reached into her purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper. I opened it slowly.
It was a legal name change application. Filed.
Approved. Emily Rose Marlowe. I gasped. You did this.
No, she said.
You did. You just needed help finishing the paperwork. Tears poured from my eyes. Not from fear. From freedom. For the first time in my life, my outside world matched my inside truth. And Emma? She hadn't just stood beside me. She had led me there. With strength. With patience. With love. We sat there in silence for a long time. Holding hands. Watching the sun begin to rise. A new day. A new name. A new marriage. One where she was the man. And I was the woman who had finally become herself. The name change wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The official papers arrived a week later, stark black text on white. Nothing emotional. Nothing poetic. But to me, it read like a poem. Emily Rose Marlowe. My signature followed it, now slightly more rounded. My hand didn't even tremble as I signed it. Emma hung a copy in her home office, right next to our wedding photo. You've always been my wife, she said, tapping the frame. Even when you thought you were the husband. I smiled. I wonder what people would say if they saw this.
They will see it, she said.
We're not hiding anymore. But the outside world wasn't done testing us. One morning, the doorbell rang. It was my old boss, Mr. Langston. Unannounced. I hadn't seen him in over a year. I was wearing a soft pink robe, house slippers, and no makeup, just me, raw and real. Emma answered the door. He looked stunned, then confused, and then his eyes landed on me.
Paul.
I hesitated. Emma didn't. Her name is Emily, she said firmly. He blinked.
Oh,
I didn't realize. I stepped forward. It's okay, I said gently. Most people don't. He stammered. I didn't mean to offend. I had no idea. I came to talk about the consulting work we mentioned last year, but do you still need help with the logistics plan? I asked. He paused. Well, yes. I mean, if you're still interested. I nodded. Then let's talk. We sat at the kitchen table. Emma brought coffee for both of us, then stepped back and let me speak. For 20 minutes, I laid out my thoughts clear, focused, confident. Langston never mentioned my appearance again. He just listened. And when he left, he shook my hand and said, "Thank you, Ms. Marlowe." I stood there, stunned. Emma walked over, beaming. "You didn't just show him who you are," she said. "You reminded him who you've always been." That evening, Emma had one more surprise. She led me to the bedroom. Laid out on the bed was a box, wrapped in silver ribbon. "For you," she said softly. I opened it. Inside was a custom-made corset, delicate, elegant, tailored to my exact size. And under it a wedding band, thin, silver, with a small engraved message on the inside. For the woman I married. I looked up at her, stunned. She got down on one knee. "I married you before you knew who you were," she said. "And I would marry you again now that you do." Tears welled in my eyes. "I never thought I deserved this," I whispered. Emma smiled. "You didn't become a woman, Emily. You remembered you always were one." She stood and helped me into the corset carefully, lovingly, pulling the laces tight until I felt shaped, held, beautiful. Then she placed the ring on my finger. Not a husband's ring. A wife's. I looked in the mirror. The reflection wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was mine. Soft features. Clear eyes. A delicate line around the waist. Bare lips. The necklace still hanging. I touched my face. And smiled. That night in bed, Emma pulled me close. Her arms were strong around me. Her hand rested on my hip. "I'm the man in this marriage now," she said softly. I nodded. "And I'm the woman." She smiled, then whispered, "Took us long enough to get it right." I laughed through the tears. Worth every mistake. A few days after our second wedding, Emma left early for a meeting. I stayed behind to tidy the house, humming softly as I folded laundry in my robe.
The doorbell rang.
I wasn't expecting anyone. Still, I padded over and opened the door without thinking. Standing there was a young man no older than 20. Tall, lean, nervously shifting his weight. His eyes widened when he saw me. Are you Emily?" I froze. "Yes." He looked even more nervous. I think he hesitated, then reached into his backpack. Pulled out a folded envelope. "I think you're my father." The words hit me like thunder. "What?" I whispered. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a picture, old, faded. Me, before everything changed. With his mother. A woman I hadn't seen in over 2 decades. I felt the air leave my lungs. He looked at me not with disgust, not with confusion, but with hope. "I've been looking for you," he said quietly. "For a long time." Behind him, a car idled. Inside was a woman older now, but unmistakable. She stepped out slowly. We locked eyes. She hadn't seen me in this form, in this life, as Emily. Her eyes flickered not with anger, but with a strange, unreadable emotion. She walked forward, the boy by her side. "I didn't know how to find you," she said softly. "And now that I have," she trailed off, staring at my skirt, my face, my softness. Emma's car pulled into the driveway behind them. She stepped out, calm, confident, immediately sensing the energy. She moved beside me and took my hand. The woman raised an eyebrow. "This is your wife?" "Yes," I said. The boy looked at us both and smiled. "I don't care what you look like," he said. "I just want to know who you are." I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat, because I wasn't sure what this meant for our future, for my identity, for us. And just then the woman reached into her purse and pulled out another envelope. A legal one. "Before we talk," she said slowly, "there's something you need to know." My heart pounded. Beside me, Emma's grip tightened. I took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a letter, a confession, a signature, a name I thought I'd never see again. And as I read it, my knees buckled, because it didn't just challenge who I had become, it threatened everything Emma and I had built. To be continued. What do you think was in that envelope? Was it something from Emily's past, or a challenge to her future? Comment your theory below. We're reading everyone. Speech balloon down arrow.